Hello, everybody. I wanted to do a real quick update on Haiti. And so hopefully everybody can hear me. I'm going to check my audio. Bridget, can you give me a thumbs up if we're good on the audio? As I want to get this out so everybody understands what's going on and what we were able to find. All right, so we're going to jump right in. So I have a quote from a New York Times article from 1993. Quote, "The Central Intelligence Agency created an intelligence service in Haiti in the mid-1980s to fight the cocaine trade, but the unit evolved into an instrument of political terror whose officers at time engaged in drug trafficking, American and Haitian officials say," unquote. So, as you can tell with your Gladio glasses on, that sounds exactly like a Gladio program that was installed in Haiti. I'm going to keep going with this. There was actually a coup in Haiti, just like all of the other countries that we have talked about. And that coup, which we'll talk about a little bit later in depth, overthrew the first democratically elected president, Reverend Jean Bertrand Aristide. And I say democratically elected because they had other presidents, but it wasn't an actual democratic election where you have multiple parties, elections, and that type of thing. The elections that they had prior to that, which we'll go over briefly, were more like single party elections. And it's a long story, but basically the CIA went in. They didn't like Aristide because he was cracking down on the military, I'm going to say Gladio program for, excuse me, for lack of a better word. But there's so much oak out here. The oak blooms everywhere. So anyway, very familiar overall atmosphere in Haiti because, we overthrow democratically elected presidents in the name of ensuring democracy. The CIA set up an organization called the National Intelligence Service, which in French, ironically enough, is SIN, SIN, not kidding. Also, another quote from the New York Times article, supporters of Father Aristide contend that the CIA is undermining the chances of his return, with analysis skewed by a misplaced trust in his military foes, unquote, because of course the CIA, number one, is lying, and number two, the military foes are the CIA operatives. And just so that I'll throw this out there, there are training camps in the Dominican Republic that the CIA set up to basically train Gladio type agents for Haiti. I came across that as well. Another quote, the agency paid key members of the junta, now in power for political and military, now as in back then, not now. The agency paid key members of the junta, now in power, for political and military information up until the ouster of Father Aristide in 1991. A review of the CIA's activities in Haiti under Reagan and Bush administrations, based on documents and interviews with current and former officials, confirmed that senior CIA officers have long been deeply skeptical about the stability and politics of President Aristide, a leftist priest, unquote. And by leftist, again, this label of being a leftist anytime you stand up for your country and your people. So he basically didn't have the approval of the CIA or US hierarchy. So basically, he had to go. The New York Times is cute by saying, of course, that the CIA had nothing to do with the actual coup and that the CIA is actively training bodyguards for Aristide just in case he returns. Are you kidding me? So we know what happens because just recently they had the um, president of Haiti killed by his bodyguards. So, hey, that training worked out well, didn't it? Aristide's political platform threatened the power of Haitian elite, specifically the Duvalier. It's Duvalier family. They were basically the dictators for 29 years from 1957 to 1986, both the father and the son. The son took over when he was still a teenager because they did everything the military and the elites wanted done. They suppressed the people. The people were basically traded as slaves. Um, oh, and let me just go ahead and lay this out here so that y'all understand what this is really all about. Um, Here's the resources that Haiti has, because it's all about the international syndicate and resources, right? So they have a lot of oil and natural gas. A recent finding, and this doesn't have a date on it, but it says a recent finding shows that the nation of Haiti might have some of the largest oil reserves in the world. The oil reserves are estimated to be larger than those of Venezuela. And that has to do with where the tectonic plates are. And they've done some initial exploration, and they compare the Haitian oil reserves to a swimming pool compared to Venezuela's being a glass of water. There has been 20 potential drilling sites, and also natural gas reserves have been detected. Gold, they have gold estimated at $20 billion. They have, let's see, copper. And obviously, the concern for the country is when, oh, shoot. Sorry about that. um, Obviously, switching windows on my computer is crazy. So that's the reason why um, this is all going on. And I want to talk a little bit about the history. In 1950, there was a guy by the name of Paul Magloire, who was a military colonel, who won in a direct election process, whatever that is. And he was the son of a army general that had served under, for 30 years there, and had basically been kind of in control of the army and was at the service of the elites in Haiti and the globalist. So he kind of was under the thumb of the CIA, if you will. He was sent off to boarding schools, and he basically embezzled a bunch of money from Hurricane Hazel and shut down the press, jailed opponents, and then he basically refused to step down after everybody was all pissed off at him. So even though he was limited to just one term via the Constitution, so he basically gets driven out of the country, like literally out of the country. And this Duvalier guy comes to power, and he strips the previous guy, the Magloire guy, of his citizenship and confiscated all of his personal property and that of his two brothers. So in 1962, JFK removes the Marines and all of the U.S. aid and basically is putting a stranglehold on the dictator that is devastating Haiti. But as soon as he's assassinated, Johnson comes in and basically reverses it all, recognizes Duvalier, and in 1964, after getting the endorsement from Johnson and the CIA, he declares himself president for life. So he sets up the secret police, basically Operation Gladio, and creates a paramilitary force that is called Tonton Macutis. And he basically, throughout the time that he was president, he finally dies in 1971, he murders over 30,000 Haitians. So, big deal. So his son, Jean-Claude Duvalier, is still a teenager. So basically his mom, Simone, is running the country as he comes of age because he's off jet setting around doing the playboy type lifestyle while his mom's basically running the country for the elite and the CIA and the US and the international syndicate. So they basically form, they being the Duvalier family, a thing called a tobacco administration, which basically created a monopoly on tobacco and used it as a slush fund to fund all of their lifestyle. So obviously there starts to be major crises because the country's completely mismanaged. The AIDS virus, African swine fever, who knows if those were planted there? I don't know. I don't know how they get on an island. But it's important to note that Haiti at this time, because it was controlled by the elite and there's almost like a mafioso kind of atmosphere there of the fine dining, the beaches, the natural beauty of Haiti was huge and a big attraction. And so tourism was like their biggest industry. So having an AIDS breakout or the swine fever was devastating to the island. So basically, the United States comes in and basically tells the Dominican Republic and Haiti that they have to destroy all of their livestock. And of course, farming is a huge, big industry for everybody that's not the elite. And that they basically had to replace the pigs primarily with a US approved, international approved pig that was not suited for the Haitian climate and required extensive extra feed and care, and in doing so decimated the agricultural viability of the locals, kind of like they're doing here. They've tried all of this shit somewhere else, guys. This is not new. So in May of 1980, the Duvalier guy marries a light-skinned divorcee. This island is primarily Catholic, so this is a huge, big scandal. Plus, the whole Duvalier legacy, if you will, is to keep the ethnicity pure and to focus on the black race, if you will. I know that sounds totally crazy, but it's true. There is a certain level of DEI baked into the goods here. Again, this is like trying to incubate all of the ideas they're bringing to America. We can find tried somewhere else. Haiti is it. So the middle class blacks in Haiti view this as a slap in the face. So he also spent $33 million on the wedding, which was totally crazy. And so there's this friction now between these guys that has been in office forever and the Duvier family. So he basically gets kicked out of the country well, the mom first gets kicked out because the new wife's pissed off at the mom because she's in control. The Pope John Paul II, interestingly enough, and we know how he fits into Gladio because he's money laundering for them. He visits Haiti in 1983, and he says that something has to change. What's going on here is not okay. And he actually starts talking about, oh gosh, equitable distribution of income, equality of social and political structure. Doesn't that sound like DEI? Yeah. So that's the Pope. So of course, immediately with the instigation of these comments by the Pope, all hell breaks loose. So there's riots everywhere. They start attacking food distribution centers, and in 1985, there's this huge movement afoot, and he obviously cracks down. He closes all the independent radio stations, deploys the police and the army, and starts killing people again. So in 86, President Reagan began to pressure him to renounce power and leave Haiti, because we're in charge. So he basically had originally accepted an offer of asylum in Jamaica, but then he says he's not going. So the U.S. State Department begins to coerce him to have to leave. So they cut the U.S. aid. Violence goes crazy because they've got Gladio operations there. They control everything. The military confronts him and demands he leaves. So finally he does. He gets on a plane. He goes to France. He's never given French citizenship, which is kind of interesting. And as soon as he gets over there, his wife dumps him. And he ends up married to the granddaughter of Paul Magliore, the guy that his dad replaced that was kicked out of the country. Can't make this shit up. So Aristides, who is now a viable candidate for president, and they're going to actually have a real election, he threatens the power of the Haitian elites, and they've been under the rule for almost 30 years of the same family. So this is a huge change for Haiti. And the main opposition to Aristide was the Haitian army, because they're basically running things. And so they basically say he wants to create constitutional laws that keep the police force and the military separate from each other, and basically set up a ministry of justice so that there's a court system so that the military can be tried for abuses because they've been murdering people for the last 30 years at will. So immediately there's this right wing, which is, I'm going to put those in quotations. There's this fascist Gladio type organization or movement called the Lavalas, Lavalas movement, and they attempt a coup against Aristide almost immediately. I mean, he hasn't even been in office a year. It is led by a guy by the name of Roger Lafontaine, and he had been a leader during the Develou presidency, and it looks to me like he's probably the one that was in charge of the Gladio operations there, just from several articles that I read today. So there is so they do this coup, and then all of the Aristide supporters that actually voted for him, they're out in the street, And so as soon as they get rid of Aristide, this Lafontaine guy attempts to declare martial law, and the army is right behind there. So eventually, this Lafontaine guy is tried and sentenced to life in prison for the coup. So it doesn't last very long. And let's see, the bulk of the action happened within about 48 hours, and Aristide is deported to France in exile. And a guy by the name of Cedras, Cedras, comes out on the third day and basically says there's been a successful coup, everybody's out, and the army bases where these Gladio operators are held all align themselves, as does the police, with Cedras over the Aristide administration. So they are, it says they basically take over the army headquarters, and the Venezuelan, French, and US ambassadors negotiate with the coup leaders for Aristide's life, and that's how they got him out. I think they were behind it, though. An outburst of popular protest associated with the coup also claimed the lives of several people, like Silvio Claude, who was the leader of the Christian Democrat Party there. And he also was a critic of the Duvalier. So they used this coup as a way of basically murdering and getting rid of all of the people that were against the elite and the army, with the Gladio operators behind the whole thing. So Cedras, Cedras, goes on television, says basically that the armed forces has successfully couped, and there's about 26 people that were immediately killed and 20 wounded in the fighting in those 3 days. So the military targeted pro-Aristide elected officials, as well as rural development and peasant organizations, neighborhoods and community associations, and trade unions. So basically, all of the things that you would need to have behind you as far as a democracy, they basically targeted them all. They also persecuted any student organizations and women's groups. So they do mass arrests without warrants. And they killed another activist, Antone Izmery, Izmery, who, before his assassination in 1993, said that this group had basically murdered over 10,000 people as a result of the aftermath of the coup, and that around 250,000 people had fled the capital city of Port-au-Prince in 1991 because of the political violence. So they basically go through a countrywide destruction of food storage silos. They killed off livestock. And this was basically a combination of the secret police and the military in doing this. And also, they shut down all the radio stations. Radio personnel were arrested, tortured, and some were even murdered. And there's a mass fleeing of people in boats. Some of them went to the Dominican Republic, not realizing that that's where they were staging Gladio operations out of. And so a lot of those people were murdered as a result of that. So the Coast Guard begins picking up people, and initially they were taking them to Guantanamo Bay, but the Bush administration basically gives them no status at all and made the military return them all back to Haiti. So, yeah, there's that. In addition, On November 1992, the UN adopted a resolution urging member states to impose a trade embargo. And there's a Governor's Island Agreement that was signed in 1993 that basically tried to compromise between Aristide and Cedrus and would result in lifting the sanctions. But the accord would provide amnesty for all the coup leaders and help in modernizing the Haitian army and police force, which of course then would all be done under the US, which are the ones that caused the problems to begin with. So, as a result of this, the sanctions were temporarily suspended, and they said that they wanted Aristide to appoint a prime minister, but basically the military regime was not going to do any of this stuff, and so they ended up reinstating all of the sanctions. So, eventually, Aristide does come back to power after some more demonstrations. So the Clinton administration is now in, and there's more demonstrations. There was a UN resolution in 1994 that authorizes Operation Uphold Democracy, where the military forces are deployed to Haiti and basically returned Aristide to power to complete his term. So you have these two guys. One's last name is Francois, Francois, and Biambi, who received, this is the key point here, military training in the U.S. Biambi went to infantry training at Fort Benning, Georgia. And by 1994, we know what was there, right? The old schools of America. And Francois received small arms training and ammunition repair training at the Army Ordnance School at Aberdeen, Maryland. He also went to Savannah Army Depot, and it's also reported that Cedrus was also receiving U.S. training despite the U.S. role in the 1994 Operation Uphold Democracy to reinstall Aristide to power. Questions remained about the involvement in the coup itself. There's a guy by the name of Emmanuel Constant. Well, there's more about him later. He reported that CIA agents were present with Cedrus at the Army headquarters during the coup, and that the CIA, of course, denied all knowledge of this. He also said the CIA paid key members of the coup regime forces identified as drug traffickers for information from the mid-1980s, at least until the coup. So basically, you have Operation Gladio and CIA presence on the ground during all of this stuff. So Aristide eventually is returned to power in October 1994. He remained until 96. And basically, there's a transfer of power. He was re-elected in 2001, but then there's another coup in 2004 that kicked him out again. So they really don't like him. And if you look at who's behind the coup in 2004, let me just read you a couple of things. It's called the National Revolutionary Front for the Liberation and Reconstruction of Haiti. That's the group's name. So it was a rebel group in Haiti that controlled most of the country during the 2004 Haitian coups. It was briefly known as the Resistance Front, which tells you everything. So the group can be, I don't want to read this whole thing, but it talks about armed anti-government gangs, former soldiers that was disbanded from the disbanded Haitian army, prominent gangs, And this is where that cannibal army comes into play. Okay. So it says that they had originally supported Aristide but turned against him. The coup initiated with the cannibal army capture of one of the areas was led by a guy that had obviously an axe to grind. Also, it says they moved throughout all of the area, but here's where the interesting part. It says that this Louis Jodel Chamberlain, a former militia leader who headed Army death squads in 1987 and a militia known as the Front for the Advancement and Progress of Haiti, which killed and maimed at least 4,000 people, raped and tortured thousands in the early 1990s. So this is Operation Gladio, people. Let's see what else. They call them paramilitary soldiers, which is exactly what they called all of the Operation Gladio. It also said that it was done in the Dominican Republic with the president Mejia, Mejia, the Dominican Republic president's approval. This training was carried out by roughly 200 members of the U.S. Special Forces. Among those trained were the guy, a man by the name of Guy Felipe, and this Chamberlain guy. So I have a little bit more about them, but they're basically two of the leaders of the Gladio efforts in Haiti. So the Chamberlain guy basically ended up surrendering to Haitian authorities and was convicted of slaughtering over dozens of Haitians in 1999. So that's kind of a huge, big deal. So let me get back to, all right. So it's been alleged that the U.S. government funded and implemented training operations for a group of over 600 anti-Aristide paramilitary soldiers. And let's see. In 2004, that is the group that led the second coup in Haiti. Both of those guys, Guy Felipe and Louis Jodel Chamberlain, led the second coup after the training in the Dominican Republic by the soft guys. So, let's see. I wanted to show you just a little bit. This Guy Felipe guy, listen to what it says. He's a former police officer and accused drug smuggler. Doesn't that scream Operation Gladio for you? So known to the CIA because he's in the drug network. He also ends up serving time in U.S. federal prison in 2019. He gained power in Haiti as a paramilitary leader. He participated in the Haitian coup, and he was sentenced to federal prison because he basically was using money that he had gained in drug trafficking in the United States. It says the charges did not address any of the numerous deaths that is documented as being carried out by death squads under his command. And he was later repatriated from U.S. prison to Haiti. So, he originally worked for the Duvier guy back when he was in charge as a dictator. So, you can see kind of how he evolved over time. And then this Chamberlain guy, also very interesting. He was in the military. So you have both the police guy who's going to run the police death squads, and you have the military guy who's running the military headed death squads. So they had both avenues covered. So Chamberlain was second in command of the paramilitary organization founded as tensions grew between the supporters of Aristide's reinstatement and the supporters of the military government. And it basically says he went into exile in the Dominican Republic. And of course, that's where we find out that those terrorist training camps were. And he was eventually tried for a mass murder that he pulled off in Haiti during the time that he was there, and was found guilty and sentenced to life in jail. So, also, this was an interesting article that, of all places, Time Magazine. Let's see if I can find it. It says 25 years after Operation Uphold Democracy, experts say the often forgotten U.S. military intervention still shapes life in Haiti. And it goes through a whole bunch of information about the military junta, President Clinton calling it a reign of terror, raping civilians, killing about 5,000 Aristide supporters in 3 years, and killed at least 15 high-ranking Aristide government officials. It said that Clinton was originally not going to interact with Haiti because it was in the aftermath of Black Hawk Down. But in this Time Magazine article, it says one reason for the belief that the junta leaders didn't believe the U.S. would invade was because at least one key member of the junta was on the CIA payroll in order to feed the CIA intelligence of the situation in Haiti. So they are saying that Emmanuel Constant guy was the guy that was on the CIA payroll in the Time Magazine article. So that's huge because Time Magazine is part of the CIA propaganda Mockingbird. So that must have came out in front of what was going to be exposed anyway, because they don't just volunteer that kind of information. That's actually huge. So just wanted y'all to know that. Let me get back to my notes. All right. So in it says that Aristide had made, so this was the reason supposedly that prompted his second coup. Aristide had come out and said he wanted reparations from France. And that was not going to cut it, right? So now all of his opponents are engaged with the Gladio stay behind capability and all come out of the woodwork to basically remove him from power the second time, because France is not okay with any of their former French possessions asking for reparations. So he had to go. And the ambassador the second time of this coup is a guy by the name of James Brennan Foley. And he's very interesting because when you start looking at him, he was also the ambassador of Croatia. And didn't we have problems there? Yes, we did. He also, let's see, where else is he at? He worked as a permanent representative to the UN, and he worked as a coordinator of the Iraqi refugee issues for the State Department. Oh gosh, look at that. In 1983, he was in the Philippines. Oh, and he was also a political officer in Algeria, where Otto Skorzeny was. And oh gosh, he actually worked at NATO for the Secretary General in Brussels. Yeah. So they put him as the ambassador in preparation for the second coup of Haiti. Nothing to see here. Nothing at all. So, and I know y'all have seen the picture of the guy that's supposedly the cannibal uh, guy wearing the Masonic necklace and ring that's all over the news today. And I have some notes on this Emmanuel Constant guy. He's really a piece of work. But I think we kind of covered he was involved in the first coup, the second coup. He really seems to have been in the middle of things. There's also an article that talks about him being on the CIA's payroll and intimately involved in the military takeover after the first coup. And let's see what else. He's the guy that eventually left because they convicted him for his role in all of these murders. So he comes to the United States and for some reason isn't extradited back to Haiti. But he's allowed to work here, and he gets a job at SunTrust Mortgage Bank and Freedmont Investment and Loan, and supposedly committed fraud in a mortgage scheme, illegal mortgage schemes. And he eventually goes to court and is found guilty of defrauding. And he does eventually get sent back to Haiti. Well, that's not true. I have not confirmed he got sent back, because even though he was said to have going to be sent back to Haiti as late as 2020, he had not been. And someone kept intervening on his behalf not to deport him. So he may be being protected in prison since he was on the CIA payroll. So I just wanted to put all of that out there so you guys could understand what's actually behind what's going on and what the history of it was, because this history just seems to keep repeating itself. So that's basically all I got for today. I wanted to hat tip Liza and Bridget for going over some of this stuff this morning with me and convincing me that I needed to dig into this and get this out to y'all. So we also are going to be talking about it again at 8:15 on The Pond over on a Spaces program on X, if anybody's interested in joining us there. So that's it for now. Tomorrow, I know my puppy wants some attention. So tomorrow we are going to start our book review on Operation Golden Lily. And I hope you can join us. It'll be at 7 on this Rumble channel. See you then.